Okay. Hello, my name is Dr. Tanya Winchester, and I am a naturopathic doctor. I am joined by my colleague, Dr. Jeannie Doig, also a naturopathic doctor. We both practice on Vancouver Island. I'm in Nanaimo, and she is in Port Alberni and in Tofino. And today we are going to be talking about how to balance your immune system with natural medicine. So hello, Jeannie.
Hi, Tanya. So happy to be here with you again.
Yes, me too. Where shall we get started today? I think let's talk about stress. That seems to be the umbrella of everything that we're gabbing about. So let's talk about the big S, stress, and how that is going to affect our immunity.
Yeah, so stress is a big player in our immune system. What stress does is it increases our hormones cortisol and adrenaline, and these hormones will depress your immune system. It will lower your white blood cells, which are your immune system cells. Now, it depends on the severity of the stress. So the worse the stress, and the worse the immune system will fall, and also the duration of the stress. And one interesting thing about the cortisol response is that it doesn't know the difference between good and bad stress. So even something like changing jobs, if it's a positive thing, or moving to a new home, or getting married, all those things can cause extra cortisol in the body, even if it's good. So the body doesn't know the difference between physical, mental, emotional stress, good or bad. It's all stress. And what happens is over time, if the stress levels are chronically elevated for too long, the body becomes depleted and burnt out, and then the immune system really suffers. Now, not because of high cortisol, but because of low cortisol. Low cortisol is your anti-inflammatory hormone. So when it goes down too low, your body can get other issues with dizziness, fatigue, hypoglycemia, and you can get autoimmune conditions like arthritis and fibromyalgia. So patients that I see in my practice that are chronically sick, getting sick over and over and over again, are usually in this phase of burnout, depletion, and we really need to work on their cortisol levels and getting it back up.
Yeah, that's a huge player. And, that's why cortisol in the form of cortisone is used as a medication in inflammatory conditions, because it does suppress that immune response so profoundly, right? Yeah. Now, I know we've talked about digestion and stress. So how does the gut play a role in the immune system?
The gut is a very important part of the immune system. 70% of our immune system cells are residing in the lumen of our intestinal tract, which is called the GALT. The gut-associated lymphoid tissue. So very, very important part of our immune system. Now, what lies in that lumen are good probiotics and plasma cells that help make antibodies. So these things will recognize, that the probiotics will recognize good and bad particles entering the body, so will help turn on or off the immune system. So it's really important we have the right good bacteria residing there. So if you have taken antibiotics in the past, anti-inflammatory drugs, eaten a lot of sugar, processed foods, these things will disrupt the gut flora, and you could have a lowered immune system. Important to repair that would be prebiotics, which are foods that help feed your probiotics. So things like leeks and onions and garlic and broccoli, full of fiber, and as well taking probiotics that can also really help improve the immune system response.
Oh, we've talked about the gut being the center of everything. It's so true. So what about some of the key players when it comes to immune health? What are some of the nutrients and the vitamins that we're looking for to actually have a healthy immune system?
So there are a couple of key vitamins that do help the immune system, but what's really important to think about is that each person is different and what they need is different. So it's important to see a naturopathic doctor to determine what vitamins you need for your immune system. For example, if a woman, a menstruating woman is running low on her iron stores, her immune system won't work as well if you're low in iron, right? But iron's not something you just take for your immune system, only if you're low. Another vitamin that if it's low is zinc. So if you have low zinc, your body's immune function will not work properly. Another important one is vitamin D. So vitamin D is a big player in North America because a lot of people are low. We're not getting the sunlight we need in the northern latitudes. So I test vitamin D on many, many patients, and I'd say quite a few are low. And taking just 1,000 IU a day isn't going to cut it for those patients. If you want to bring the immune system up, those patients need a higher dose. So of course they would consult with me, and I would give them the appropriate dosages to help their immune system, as well as depression, prevents cancer, anti-inflammatory, helps your hormones. I mean, vitamin D is a really great vitamin for so many things, but it is important for the immune system. One of my really favorite vitamins is vitamin C, and it's a huge important vitamin for immune system, because what it does is it improves white blood cell function. And I also do blood tests on patients to see what their white blood cells are at. If somebody comes to see me and they're chronically sick, they sometimes have low white blood cells. They're just not able to fight infection. And vitamin C, if I give those patients a robust amount of vitamin C every day for a certain period of time, their immune system will be stronger. And there's been studies on vitamin C that it shortens the duration of respiratory tract infections. So it's a great vitamin for your immune system at the appropriate dosage. One more thing about vitamin C is that it helps with the stress, the cortisol. So patients that are burnt out or in that exhaustion phase again, it will help bring that cortisol back up to a balanced level. So it's important for many reasons.
Yeah, and that just goes back to why we need a healthy gut, because we need to be able to absorb all of these nutrients, right?
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
of course.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So Tanya, tell me, what are the common ways that the immune system responds to the environment?
Okay, I love talking to patients about this. So if you imagine that there is a grid of 4 boxes, okay? And in column 1 is the response to the outside environment. So these are things like bacteria, toxins, viruses, right? And in the second column down, we've got our inside, our self. So these are things like internal toxins that our body might produce, as well as cells that are maybe not functioning super well, and or aberrant DNA, that kind of thing. So we've got non-self, the outside, and self. Now in the rows, we've got an overactive immune function and an underactive immune function. So now we can kind of just fill in the grid. I would normally draw this for patients, but I'll do my best to describe it. So in that first quadrant where we're responding in an overactive way to outside, that is when we would see allergies. So we would see, seasonal allergies, things like eczema, atopic dermatitis, this type of thing. And if we hop over to the next box, when we're over responding to our own body tissues, that would basically mean autoimmune disease. So just as you were saying, it's when the immune system is ramping up its own response to our own body tissues. So now in the lower section, we've got underactivity in the immune system. So we can be underactive to or underreactive to the outside environment. So this would mean we're most likely sort of chronically ill, like it's the person that's kind of getting sick all the time. They're just not able to mount the proper response to be healthy in the face of outside influences. And then the final box is when we're underreactive to our own body tissue, our own body tissues. And this is when we would see more serious things like cancer. The immune system isn't able to sort of manage the changes in the cellular structure that's happening. So you can see that the immune system has a big role to play in several different areas. And I'm simplifying this description a little bit, but you can see how involved it is, right? So everything from allergies to cancer, the immune system has a role to play.
Wow, thank you, Tanya. That was a great analogy. What role does diet play to balance the immune system?
Yes, so we've talked about some of the key nutrients. Jeannie mentioned vitamin D and vitamin C and zinc. These are all players. The word vitamin means vital amine. It's basically something that your body needs to survive and function. And how do we get these into our bodies? Through the food that we eat. And so there's kind of 2 arms of this. We can be eating to nourish our bodies and choosing good whole foods. We talked about whole foods, I think, last time, where foods are one ingredient. And we can be eating foods that are poisons and toxins. And so this is a choice that we get to make every time we put food in our mouth. Every time we eat, it's an opportunity to stack the deck in our favor from an immune perspective. So anything that is one ingredient, comes from the earth, is brightly colored, is going to support the immune system. One nutrient that you didn't mention is vitamin A, and that's really, really supportive of immune function. It's a really great antiviral actually, and it's found in brightly orange and red colored fruits and vegetables. So diet plays a huge role. We want to be choosing foods that are low inflammatory. We want to be choosing foods that are low reactive for us personally. So everybody's going to have a different set of food sensitivities and reactivities. The inflammation that we can consume when we're choosing foods that aren't working for us is going to just flare up and decrease the functioning and balance of the immune system. So diet is so key, and it's one of the best things that we can do because we have so much power over what we put in our bodies. It's a choice that we can make every day.
So true, so true. And again, back to the gut, like the food sensitivity part, again, we mentioned that in our last talk, but so important because if you're eating foods you're reactive to, that's going to deplete your immune system because your immune system is going to be so busy fighting reactions to foods, for example, gluten or dairy or something like that, or corn, that your body's going to be tired from doing that. It won't have the immune system capacity to fight other infections. So you're leaving yourself depleted.
Yes, that's such a good point where we need to kind of consider that our resources in a way are finite. And so we want to make sure that we're giving them the best advantage. What would be the best use of my body's resources right now? Would it be processing the donut, or would it be eating, you know, the salad with the carrot on it or something?
Exactly. What are your favorite herbal medicines to help support the immune system?
Oh, I love my herbal medicines. I call them herbal allies, actually. And I joke in my office, I have a cupboard. I compound tinctures for patients. So these are liquid herbal medicines. And I have them all in this cupboard, and I call that my cauldron. But anyways, you know, something that is, I think, really misunderstood is echinacea. And we've all heard of echinacea. And it's actually been sort of in the media described to be a really good short-term herb, and when you feel like you're coming down with something, to take echinacea, but it's actually a long-term herb. It is an immune adaptogen. It's going to help your immune system balance, and in these 4 quadrants that I was describing, it helps your immune system hang out right in the middle of those 4 quadrants, where you're not over or under reacting. So there's 2 other myths about echinacea that I want to go through, and often in the retail brands of echinacea, you see that it's the flowering top that's used in the medicine. That's actually not the most active part of the plant, it's the root. And also, echinacea loves friends. So there's 2 species of echinacea that really go well together. So they have a synergistic relationship. And we've got Echinacea augustifolia and Echinacea purpura. So when you're looking for an echinacea blend, look for both of those species and look for the root to be the main part of the blend. So echinacea is great, and it's something that you can actually take all season long, and certainly the patients that I have on a nice high quality echinacea rarely get sick. So we really see that immune balancing function. I also love astragalus. Astragalus is one that is a great recovery herb. It's a medicine that's used in Chinese medicine as well as Western herbal medicine. And astragalus I'll use when people are actually recovering from being ill, or recovering from being depleted, or recovering from being, say, adrenally exhausted or fatigued. So it's a really lovely kind of get you back on your feet kind of herb. And then lastly, I'll mention St. John's wort, which is actually one of my favorite. We know it as an antidepressant herb. It's equal in efficacy to certain medications. For low to moderate depression, but from an immune perspective, it's actually my favorite antiviral combination. Actually, really specific. It's a really specific antiviral for herpes. So I'll often use it in my patients that have, say, cold sores or other herpes outbreaks. It's a really, really lovely one. And that is an example of a herb that's really important to make sure you're seeing someone professionally, because it does have a lot of drug interactions. So just because these things are natural, we want to really emphasize they're not necessarily safe for everyone. So it is important to chat with your, local naturopathic doctor and see if it's right for you.
Great, thank you. Such great information, Tanya. Thank you.
Yes, you too. Well, that I think takes us to the end of this chat for today. And we are going to be live next weekend on Saturday to talk about hormone balancing for the menstrual cycle.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you then.
Awesome. Take care.
Bye.